Video thing as well.
Doesn't have a name.
Podcast?
Midlife crisis.
Paddy Daddy.
Midlife crisis.
DADCAST?
That's not bad, actually, yeah.
DADCAST, Misadventures in Parenting. Brought to you by Cadbury Freddo Treasures. Discover the new Freddo Treasures Space Series with Cadbury Dairy Milk Buttons, one surprise toy in every chest. And we're live, and some of the dads are here this week. You're very welcome along to this week's episode of DADCAST. Dave McIntyre is here.
Hello, lads. Sounding
loud and clear there, Dave, on your old school 1960s lip mic.
Yeah, my John Watson mic. It's a new departure for me. I've just forgotten to use it. I've had it in the case for the last while, but I've decided to crack it open today.
Oh, Adrian's here as well.
You think about the, like how people won't be aware, Ger, but the amount of, how cumulatively, how long do you think we spent pre-shows with Dave trying to get his mic right?
Well, in fairness now, I have listened back to the last 2 or 3 episodes of the DADCAST, and my sound is the best over the last 2 or 3.
Took a while, we got there.
And yeah, that is fair, but so I can accept your argument if it's only based on everything that happened up to the last 6 weeks, because since then, I have been number 1 in sound quality. And now I have moved the goalposts again on you guys. So you can take your echoey, non-soundproof rooms and try and put up with the standard I'm now setting.
Hang on. You're listening back.
Oh, yeah. Don't you, Adrian?
Yeah, I'd like to say
Sure.
I'm listening back for editing and production research purposes. It's mainly to hear how it sounds on the...
Libel. How much libel damage have you done to your marriage? Is that the...
Well, if there's libel damage, I'm sure I don't need to go looking back and listen to it to find out how much damage there has been done. It'll be brought to my attention by the powers that be.
A reminder, Dave's sound has improved as we got a sponsor as well. He was like, oh, I better, brush up here. DADCAST, The Misadventures of Parenting is brought to you by Cadbury Freddo Treasures. Discover the new Freddo Treasures, the Space Series with Cadbury Dairy Milk Buttons and one surprise toy in every chest. And this week, all with thanks to Freddo Treasures and the new Space Series, we've got a €100 voucher for Photo Island Adventure Park up for grabs for you and your family to enter. Just head over to the DADCAST Twitter channel and retweet the competition post that is pinned to our page. My 9-year-old was like, Dad, what's DADCAST? I was like,
Uh-oh.
Oh.
What? What?
Nothing.
What is DADCAST? It's like, it's a show we do at work. And do you talk about us? No. No. Oh, okay.
Just dad stuff.
So you basically just flat out lied to your daughter.
I know, it's terrible. I was like, the first time I've been interrogated properly, I just completely buckled and went like, no, and then changed the subject. So I'm going to have to address it and see if I have permission. And
right.
Then, I don't know if somebody had brought it up to her, or maybe she heard an ad for it on OTB Sports Radio. It's playing on our smart speaker, which is a thing you can do these days.
Right. Well, thankfully, mine aren't old enough to really ask me that question.
I know, but it's
fair
certainly
for the future.
Like deleting all our old episodes it kind of seems like a bad thing to do, but at the same time, maybe it's necessary.
Yeah. Well, when can we do that? I'd be for that happening today.
Could we put them into like some sort of archive somewhere, or just store them away somewhere away from public viewing?
Yeah, like the dark web.
Well, yeah, the dark web. Yeah. Well, they should be available for when the children are old enough. Maybe they never get to this point, but they're old enough to hear the shite that we're coming out with.
We'll put them on a website where anybody who wants to listen back to them has to scan their birth cert, and then it will unlock the treasure trove that is the early episode collection of DADCAST.
The early years. Do you know what I mean, though? Like, just that they're not getting them when they're like 13 or 14 and at a vulnerable point in their life. That wouldn't it be an absolutely beautiful thing if at 40 you suddenly unlock this amazing treasure trove of what their parents were going through, or their dads were going through at that time of their lives? That would be incredible.
That would be good, yeah. But it has to be locked away. Speaking of having to be locked away, Nathan's finally got the equipment to work. He understands how this is good. This is the bit where it's going to be all crackly off his beard now as soon as he unfolds. So one of the other dads is late for our podcast listeners. Nathan has arrived, no doubt, doing some manly parenting. How are you, Nathan?
How's it going? doing some manly parenting.
Oh, you're a man, you parent. It'll be manly parenting.
True. Any further correspondence from my
Your
acquaintance,
ex-friend?
my
No.
former friend?
You
No,
know
I
who
haven't
it
been
is?
able to. No, I don't have a clue.
A lot of negative response to him from
Good.
people.
Well, there was negative response from us. Are we on, by the way? Is this the
We are
show
on.
chat?
Yeah,
Are we
yeah.
on?
See the little card thing
We're
up
on.
there.
We're on, Nathan. Welcome to the
Okay.
show.
Right.
To be fair to the guy, he's a cock, but also he was readily admitting himself that he was a cock before
And he took the time to get in touch. We cannot argue with that.
No, he did, but doesn't mean he's not a cock.
We have no correspondence this week. How much we would give to have a similar email or bit of correspondence to go through this time around, but we don't.
Well, it's just anti everything we stand for, which is that we're all in this together. We all acknowledge that we make mistakes. There's different parts of our kids' lives as they grow up that we find challenging, and sometimes we get it right, sometimes we get it wrong. But this guy,
Well, I
This
think
guy
it was just that there was so much of it that was so utterly unrealistic when played through the prism of actual real life. That
yeah,
you know,
I can't
it was
believe
an-
that 7:30 I didn't get up and separate the porridge into 8 different parts of the kids this morning for them to throw it back in my face.
Well, we had the whole "I'm not going to school today" from both of them at 7:10 this morning. They both insisted that school/Montessori was boring, that all they did was sit at their desks and learn stuff, and they never got to do anything fun. And for that reason, neither were going in today. Managed to get through that portion of the morning until they both decided that they were not wearing their uniform. Well, the one of them that does wear the uniform, not wearing the uniform, don't like it. I am wearing what I want today. So again, you have to negotiate your way through that. There's no point losing your rag at 7:30 a.m. It's an awful long day ahead. You don't want that rag to fester while they're in school and carry the grudge with you throughout the mid-morning and afternoon. But in the end, they saw sense, and hopefully they are in there at the moment, and their minds are being molded.
Did one set the other one off?
Of course, as is always the case. It would never have been in the mind of the younger fella that what he was going into today was going to be boring until he was told it would be by his older brother.
Look, the copycats mentality is just something you can't fix. We had a birthday in the house this week, and the green-eyed monster of the jealousy was off the charts. It was unbelievable.
Which of the three had a birthday?
The eldest had a birthday, so the middle child was like, and we kept pointing out that you're just being jealous. She's like, I'm not being jealous. I just want stuff.
I just hate the other one, and I want presents.
It was
It's fair enough, isn't it?
Yeah.
We had to go and collect a bike. You know, collecting a bike is like a big deal. And no, she had to come. And okay, fair enough. And then it was like, well, I want to go for a bike. I want to go for a ride on my new bike. Yeah, okay, fair enough. And then 5-year-old has to go. And we ended up having to buy her a present this week just to like make sure that the entire week wouldn't be completely ruined. And it's like, it's on the birthday cake. The birthday cake, there was icing, and there was a certain number of balloons that were made from icing, and there was war about who got to have the balloons on the icing on the cake because there was an unequal split about it. It's like I can't fix this.
How did you handle it? Did it take all the good of the day out for you?
There was definitely moments where you were like, I'm going to have to not let this be the only thing that I remember from when we bought our first bike. You know, because I actually have a good strong memory of spending my confirmation money on buying a bike and being taken to Carlo by my dad buying that bike, and it's like, that's cool. And I hope that there might be some memories made other than that's not fair. She's getting that. Why can't I have that? I'm not jealous.
It's soul destroying. It really is. And they are 100% being unreasonable. Like you do not want to pander to their behavior in any way because it's being entirely unreasonable. Their birthday is going to be coming up at some stage. They'll have their day, many of them, but yet they can't be reasoned with. And so what is the middle ground? How do you handle it without really being stern and overly harsh on the emotional child that is struggling with the concept that his or her older brother or sister is getting something they're not?
Her birthday's in 3 weeks. We were able to point out that, like, you're going to get all this stuff in 3 weeks' time. It was like, that's too far away. It's like,
Yeah. And did you bring your daughter to the bike shop?
Yeah.
And was that a relaxing experience? Because I brought my son to the bike shop about 3 months ago, and I spent the entire time. In fact, anytime I bring him to the shop, ever, don't touch that, don't touch that, don't touch that, don't touch that. Have you sanitized your hands? Don't stand within that person. I was like, never again.
I read a great piece of science. I must share it on about how the likelihood of you getting COVID from a surface is so small that it's the human interaction. It's sharing a studio with somebody, Nathan. That's more likely going to cause the coronavirus for you than it is actually wiping it on something. So I'm like, look, if they're going to get it from that, then it's like winning the lottery, except a bad lottery that gives you a life-debilitating illness.
Well, Nathan was the guy who was desanitizing his wine bottles as they were delivered to him during lockdown. So
that was a high point. That was
a lot of time desanitizing.
That was a high point of lockdown for me that day.
Look, I don't think there's any way to handle it apart from getting through it and trying, as you say, Jared, to take something else from the day. Like that last birthday that we had, that's all I remember of the day is the emotions and the rows surrounding the fact that somebody wasn't getting something that another guy was. And it's such a pity because these days should be special.
Is Christmas going to be, like, in that specific way, more intense now than it would have been if we were actually all allowed to? I don't know, you spend Christmas, but normally we'd be at one of the extended families, which looks like it's very unlikely this year. And so we'll all be knuckling down and batting down the hatches. Is it going to be more intense now that, like, you can't really go anywhere?
I don't know. Is it not going to be a bit more straightforward because we're used to it? So for a lot of people, the difficulty with Christmas is you end up spending an awful lot of time together when, you know, you spend most of your week at work. Whereas now you've got 2 weeks off and spending every minute of every day with your loved ones. Whereas now there's no escape. So it's just going to be another regular week.
It'd make it easier in terms of going from house to house, and every house you go to, the expectation is that there's going to be a truckload of presents served up in that house. So if you're only spending your entire Christmas day in one place, that won't be an issue. That's definitely a positive that I would see in it. You wake up, Santa has brought what he's brought, and that is it for the day. And there isn't this frenzied unwrapping of presents and barely a second glance at the contents within.
What do you think, Adrian? You brought it up.
Well, I was more thinking out loud, to be honest, just about it's not so bad really in our house yet. I suspect we're probably heading that direction very soon. The jealousy thing is off the charts in every other way. From the eldest fella down to his younger sister, it's off the charts. Like, there's literally nothing that can go on that he, you know, everything is a competition. Like, so I normally get the breakfast every morning, and when I'm putting it out, I want my Weetabix on the table first. I'm like, it's not a competition. Like, sit down and enjoy your breakfast. I'm going to finish my Weetabix first. No, not a competition. Finish my OJ first. No. And this continues like right the way through the day. Whereas all she's doing is, she's too young yet, but I can definitely tell she is a very different personality to him. All she's doing is copying whatever's going on, either him or me or whatever. So I don't know. Yeah. So from the presence point of view, Christmas thing, I don't know. I suspect the lads are probably right that actually it maybe takes some of the heat out of things, that there isn't this great chase to be going around places. And I'm sure grandparents will be delivering presents or will have dropped off presents, whatever. So there'll probably be that element too. But it might actually take some of the sting out of it, that everyone's just, like Nathan says, is the joyful time of sitting around and spending great, valuable minutes in each other's company.
The element of competition, though, is something that you can turn to your advantage. Yes, it can be incredibly irritating when I want this first, or somebody does something before the other guy and it turns into a row. But when you need them to do something, the element of competition can definitely be used your way. So whether it's getting dressed in the morning, okay, who's going to be the champion of getting dressed in the morning? Or who's going to go to the toilet and get their wee done first? Or who's going to get their seatbelt on first? Oh, this is amazing. And then they really go after it then. So you can definitely manipulate the situation to your advantage.
I'm just imagining Dave's house. Imagining Dave's house, the commentator running around after his kids.
Hold on, I get my microphone. Hold on, I get my microphone.
I permanently have the stick mic in my hand. Oh, this is incredible. Here comes Adam. He's whipped his bags down first. This is going to be a close run thing.
You're Andrew Cotter, except for kids.
Yeah,
all
I heard, Adrian, was that your kids were eating their breakfast.
Yeah.
Just be happy.
No, they're very good. They're very good. Yeah, they're very good. And yeah, no, they are. I have to say they're excellent that way. The only slight concern I have about, and because I'm with you, Dave, 100%. There are times where I'm like, fuck it, he's not eating it, and I need to get him to eat it now, and that's how I'm going to do it. But I'm just a bit concerned about encouraging him to be competitive. You know what I mean? Like, he's already off the charts, and now I'm saying, oh, you should dial that shit up because that is the way to go. I'm trying to discourage him. I don't know. I know what you're saying. It definitely wins the day at that moment.
Yeah, you have to pick your battles, and sometimes it'll work your way, sometimes it doesn't. Do we do, he's just a little baby thing as well. So, like, if the younger fella isn't eating his dinner, I'll turn around to his big brother and go, oh, would you look at the little babble? Like, he's such a baby. He doesn't even know how to put a spoonful of his own dinner into his own mouth.
This is bullying, Dave. I don't know if you're aware of this.
And straight away he's like, I'll show you. Massive mouthful. Now, to the point where he is likely to choke on said mouthful. But next of all, you turn around 5 minutes later, the plate's clean. You know, I know it's psychological manipulation, but, needs must from time to time.
Bullying, Dave. Bullying.
Jer, is it the two eldest that the jealousy is between?
It's just the middle one jealous of everybody.
Right. What's the gap?
We'll see, because the 9-year-old had her birthday last week. The 5-year-old will have her 6th birthday at the start of October, and then our youngest kind of doesn't really care too much about anything. He's happy banging his head against the wall to see if there's anything in there.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see now in 3 weeks' time what the level of jealousy is the other way.
Yeah, because there's obviously a bigger gap then. There's only 15 months between my two lads. And we've never had the massive jealousy issue, but I'm just wondering what maybe some of the listeners who have kids that are very close together, the old Irish twins. The problem we've had is there's never been the massive jealousy because we sort of treat them both the same because there's nothing between them. But obviously one is 15 months younger and one is in 3rd class and one is in 1st class. So we shouldn't really be treating them the same. And it's going to come to a head now because the eldest lad, and no decision has been made for Christmas, wants a tablet because everybody in his class has a tablet. So I'm not fully on board with getting him a tablet for starters, but if we were to get him a tablet, the younger lad is, well, if he's getting a tablet, I obviously have to get a tablet because everything he's entitled to, I'm entitled to. And I feel a little bit of sympathy for him because he's had 8 years of pretty much getting everything the big brother's got. Whereas now, just when time's getting really good, just when he's going to get access to all that Minecraft goodness. Yeah.
What are you going to do when it's drink and not tablets?
Tablets.
He gets to go drinking cans down the field. Why can't I get to go drinking cans down the field?
I know. So you're saying make the separation now good and early.
Well, I'm not sure Nathan will be in the know when it comes to either of them drinking cans down the field.
This is the problem. And I also fear that the younger lad will be the one drinking cans anyways before the older lad.
And so what are your, look, maybe it's obvious, but what are your general reservations about the older guy getting his tablet? The first tablet. Is he not watching Minecraft, etc., on the iPad as it is?
Yeah, he is, but like it's mine, so I still feel I just know the row is going to turn into it's his. So we need to obviously figure out some way. I don't know how people have managed this previously in terms of the child being the owner of the tablet. Obviously, it doesn't mean he's going to get it whenever he wants. But it does seem to already, I can get the sense from the way he's talking, he feels he'd have more of a sense of entitlement as to when he can use it. I know that's parenting that you have to deny them. And maybe I should just hold back. It's the killer, and Dave, you're probably starting to find this, and Adrian, you'll find it. Killer is, so his friends have older brothers and sisters again, and they're the ones who ruin it for everybody. So he's going to somebody else's house and he's like, oh, well, they have a PlayStation 4 and they're getting a PlayStation 5. I'm like, no, they don't. Their 14-year-old brother has one and they just get to play it when you're there. So therefore, you're not getting one because you're 8.
Yeah,
there's no win in that.
There is no win in that. They don't accept that rationale and that reasoning. Like my older guys, he's developing a real appetite for gaming. And I've been told by his uncle, who is a real gamer and always has been, that he has somewhat of a panache for it. which is equally worrying, because that will further fuel the addiction or the potential addiction. You're right. It is just a parenting issue. We had a little bit of a incident during the week whereby we have 2 iPads in the house. Combined age of the 2 iPads must be pushing 22, I would say. Like, I don't know what the first version of the iPad was, but these 2 are not far off it. And like, you can't upload any new apps because they're simply not compatible with anything that has been developed in the last 2 years. But the screen was broken on one of them the other day.
Oof.
In a premeditated fit of pique.
Oh.
And
did you calm down after?
When I had calmed down after watching it happen, I just, again, you have to be able to manipulate these situations to your advantage. I immediately thought, well, this is a great way to get him off playing these games on the iPad. Because I said, there is now 1 iPad left in the house. All of us need to use it for various reasons. You have shown that you can no longer be trusted with something of this value, in brackets 15 to 18 euro. And for that reason, you will not be allowed to play games on the second iPad, lest a similar situation occur. And that was a week ago. And nobody has played a game on any screen since. And there is...
Did you get a replacement?
No.
Are you going to?
No, I don't think so. Like I said, the 2 of them, we've 2 iPads. They're both ancient.
Yeah, what do you need them for?
Well, we use mainly it's used to Chromecast some of their stuff onto their TV in their playroom, maybe in the evenings before they go to bed, and we're watching something in the living room, in our TV room. So that's mainly it. And I would use it the odd time to watch highlights of a game or something.
It's a replacement Skybox or a second Skybox then, or whatever.
Well, we watch so little Sky apart from sports at the moment that there would be never a need for us to have a second Skybox in the house. I mean, you can Chromecast everything onto a smart TV, whether it's Amazon or Netflix, which is pretty much all they watch. So that's not an issue. And we just use the iPad for that. But he would have had the iPad in his hands, picking whatever Roblox stuff or Minecraft stuff or Fortnite stuff he wants to watch somebody else playing, and he would stream it himself via Chromecast. Whereas now, because the iPad's broken and we can't take out the other one in case it's broken and we're left with nothing, I do it on my phone now, and every time the video ends, he has to get up off the couch, come back out, scroll through it on my phone with me, pick what he wants and go back in to watch it, and then do it again when the next video ends. So his little tantrum has made life very much more difficult for him than it was before.
That's a win in the end.
It is, definitely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's a pain in the hole for you as well, isn't it?
No, well, it's a little more work, but I have far more control over what's being watched now. And I think a little lesson has been learned that if you show that you can't be trusted with something of value, well, then it's going to take a little bit of time before that trust can be regained.
I probably, did I mention this before? I bought a retro Nintendo. Like 60 quid in Smith's, but it has all the old Mario Kart stuff. So I got it about a year ago, and I thought one Saturday I was like, I'll play it with the kids because, nice little nostalgic feeling. And within about an hour, they were totally addicted to it. And within about a week, one of the kids was waking up at 5 a.m. saying, I'm just going downstairs to play Mario. Like, yeah, I don't think so. So I've actually never played it since, but I told them that it only had a certain amount of goals, and it ran out of goals. And it just doesn't work anymore. And somehow they still haven't copped on to this, that I was talking absolute nonsense.
But we all had these issues, didn't we, as kids? Like, I remember my mother coming downstairs at like 5 a.m. to find my little brother playing Championship Manager. She had left him there at 10 p.m. the previous evening.
That sounds like my entire first year of college.
So it's not like we were computer games / console free when we were kids, and we developed the same addictions very quickly. I was addicted to Championship Manager and Sensi Soccer before that.
I think that changed though, because if they were to say all I'm going to do is gaming between now and the age of 18 when they're on the iPad, okay, you'd monitor it and you'd make sure they're not on it morning, noon and night, but you'd say, okay, it's a bit of a pastime when they're a bit wrecked and they're not out playing with their mates. The problem is, in 2 years' time, they're going to be on some sort of an app that I know nothing about, chatting with their mates, who are going to be calling them this, that, and the other. and then you're into a whole other ball game.
Yes. That's why having to come out and check your phone is probably the best part of that whole thing, Dave. But like, look, I don't know what to do with all this stuff. I mean, we've definitely got to start crossing that bridge. Like, the 13-year-olds, that seems to be the generally accepted time. People get a phone. It has WhatsApp. It has enough on it. And then, like, after they're 13, you can't really be telling them what to do, can you?
Well, Nathan, there must be kids in your eldest son's class that have mobile phones.
Don't think so. In third class, no. Well, they're not allowed to bring them to school anyways. Maybe at home they have some form of a mobile, but I definitely haven't heard of them talking to each other or WhatsApping each other. But it's probably not that far away. Like, we had a talk in the PTA last year, I probably mentioned it, but the guy who gave the talk, the child psychologist, said, what age are you accepting of your child looking at porn? Because the second you give them the phone, that is what's going to happen. They may not want to look at it, but it's going to start being sent to them. So that's how you have to think about this. But sixth class is what I think generally seems to be possibly in sixth class, a lot of them get phones.
That's a frightening thought, that you can monitor your son or daughter's internet activity as best you can, and you can ensure that they aren't actively seeking out something like pornography and spending time watching it, but you can do absolutely nothing about it being sent to them, like on a WhatsApp video or a WhatsApp GIF or whatever the situation may be. How do you stop that? I mean, if you see something,
GIF, Dave,
it shows the innocence and the naivety of it all.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I'm down with my kids.
Yeah, exactly.
No more GIFs.
Those memes.
I'm
down with the watch chat. I'm up all over those sort of applications.
I don't know what you do. Like, and here, this is if this somehow manages to continue into the teenage years, we'll be destroyed. But like, I guess this is parenting teenagers. Like, nobody knows. Have people figured it out? We need to find someone who's figured it out.
I presume there's not much way of figuring it out, is there? Like, that's...
Yeah, just make sure that they're like able to be productive members of society at some point in their 20s, and that's it. Like, that's the bit about parenting that I think maybe you don't realize when you have your kids. You're like, oh, this is great, especially when you have your first one. It's like, oh, this is great, and can I hand them back now? Or like, I've had them for a little while. That's okay. This first few months have been good. When do I get my break?
In your 60s, when they've sucked the best years of your life out of you, and everything's downhill from here, and you wonder what happened.
Yeah.
And there's also the terrible realization that we're all going to be facing. So, like, I left home when I was 17 to go to college. These kids aren't going anywhere.
No.
Like, if they're living in Dublin, they ain't going anywhere till they're probably, at best, 25.
Oh, God. That is a sobering thought. I mean, I was 25 and I moved out, so I'm not one to talk. But you're right. People who have a good job now and desperately want to move out, whether they're teachers or guards or bank managers or whatever the case may be, they cannot go anywhere. And they are living at home at the age of 30-odd, absolutely not what they want to be doing. Unless something dramatic happens in terms of housing and property prices in the next 20 years, we're going to be in that same boat.
Like a pandemic, for example. I mean, or everybody moving to the country. Or actually, in 20 years' time, we'll all be living in high-rises floating on the bed of water that has dripped down from the melting ice caps. So, there's that to look forward to as well.
Was it the Irish Times on Saturday had the story of somebody who had to move back home? I had to move back home, and I can't stand hearing my parents have sex. That they have parents have a Sunday morning ritual, and the
schedule.
They have a schedule.
They have a schedule, yeah, and they're sticking to it.
And that the child spends all weekend dreading waking up on a Sunday morning.
They have loud, enthusiastic sex on a Sunday morning. Like, it's one way to get rid of your grown adult child, isn't it?
They're probably not having sex at all. They're probably just in the room, like, making up the noises in the basement. Oh, yeah.
Right there.
This is taking a turn for the worse.
That's a great idea. You should
wow. Just start leaving things lying around the house. Like in the customer door.
Or maybe they started out that way. Maybe they decided, right, to tell you what, right, every Sunday morning we get up and we'll like fake that we're doing it, and that'll sort of give them the idea. And then maybe they decided they were sort of halfway through making these noises and they were like, right, listen, we're here, we seem to be in the spirit of things. let's just go for it. And then it became a thing.
Hopefully.
It depends what age the parents are, isn't it? Like if the parents
60s, they were in their 60s.
Oh, 60s, okay.
Fair play.
Yeah, yeah. Anybody who's like jealous of their parents' sex life, you know.
I wouldn't say jealous. I'd say it's more. Oh, you do not want to hear your parents going at it. Let's face it.
Yeah, she's not there on a Sunday morning going, "Gee, sounds like you."
I wish that was me.
Yeah, fair play, Dad. Fair play.
Okay, that's the name of the episode this week. Fair play, Dad.
So how is everything going with schools, lads? Have we had any scares? Have we had any tests? Have we had any
I've had a test,
warnings sent home? Oh, it was
on this chat.
Guilt of them.
No, you pointed out. I was like, oh, maybe you're right. Yeah, no, we'd had it didn't seem to be COVID. Like he was just he couldn't smell or taste anything. He had a bad cough. No, he had a bit of a cough and a runny nose, and it was quite clearly a cold. But yeah, I did feel on the back of this conversation last week, whenever it was, that we should go and get him tested. So it was all very smooth. You don't tend to hear these stories too much, but it was like. Actually, it turns out my wife had been in touch on the Thursday night. We got an appointment on the Friday for the Sunday. Then the Sunday got the result on the Monday, and all was good with the world. But yeah, he did end up spending 2 weeks out of school. He only went back today between that and having to obviously get the results, and he had a bit of an eye infection last week as well. So it was all coming at once. But yeah, no, all good on that front. Yeah, went back in this morning, clicking his heels back in the door, loving life.
When the process works, it's good.
It was brilliant. Yeah, like you see, people don't tend to take to Twitter to go, oh, you won't believe the amazing run we had with getting our kid tested. But
yeah, ours was shite. And did he get the nasal as well as the throat, or just the throat?
Both, yeah, both. And I didn't. My wife brought him up, and effectively it was like before they went in. Here's a few buttons. All right, cool. And then just as they were wrapping up, here's a few more buttons. Okay, great. And seemed to take. And he wouldn't be shy about moaning about something like if it wasn't right. So
right.
Well,
okay,
large Cadbury's chocolate buttons are the solution to pretty much all of a parent's problems.
He had some Freddo bars.
Freddos. Freddos aren't bars. Oh, Freddos are bars, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. Lovely.
I mean, just have a bit of chocolate on hand, and you can pretty much get away with anything. There's after school, we have a sort of a 30-minute layover between picking up the elder guy and then going to the Montessori/creche to collect the second lad, the younger fella. And there's a little green area next door to the school where the kids just peg it around in for 20 minutes after school every day, the time of their lives. But it's obviously not within the pods that they would have been in school. And you're looking at it going, I'm not sure this should be happening, but it's very difficult to stop it. And it's very difficult not to appreciate the fact that they're running around in the sunshine, in the fresh air, having great fun, meeting friends, getting to do stuff that they haven't really been able to do properly for so long. And it's a little bit of a conundrum standing there while wearing the mask and while socially distancing yourself from the other parents, but you can't help but having these thoughts.
But they're outside.
They are outside, and I know
and
that makes everything so much safer.
No, but at break time, they're all outside together. They don't stay in the pods at lunchtime.
I think they stay within their class.
Yeah.
They're supposed to stay within the pods.
At lunchtime. They don't mix with all of the other classes within senior infants, for example, as they would have done pre-COVID.
Right.
So there is at least a restriction and a limit on the numbers of kids. The break times, I understand, are staggered, so that a different class is out at any one time. But you're not going to stop them playing around like that after school, are you? Like, is that too draconian? Sit in the car for half an hour while we wait for the clock to tick down to go and collect your little brother.
It's hard to know. Like, I know in the kids' school, there's a big thing about not congregating outside and like literally picking the kids up or dropping them off and you're gone again and no hanging around. But then they are playing football at the weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
So they are seeing and being around people that are outside their little pods anyways.
Yeah, but at least that's like, I was listening to a thing at the weekend and this guy was like, I see people, like, you can go shopping, you can go into the shop and spend an hour in the shop, but you can't go to the pub for an hour. Yeah, like, there are, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's right. That's correct.
Duh.
And like the same, I think that people, the thing that my view on it would be that, like, there are absolutely contradictions about the guidelines, but like there just has to be, because it's almost impossible to make hard and fast rules. Like, you might have to say don't congregate after school, but you know they're going to be playing football at the weekend, and like that's actually, it's not that it's fine, but that's what's one. Even though they're kind of effectively the same thing, I understand why they might say don't do this one, and it's okay to do that one. You know, like you stand the same chance of getting infected at either, but obviously then when you put the both of them together, it's an increased risk again. So I'd say it's that living with COVID thing, isn't it? I don't know. People are, I don't know if anybody in this podcast is quite of this mind, but like, the government are, what a shit government we have, and they can't make decisions, and like this whole thing is a shambles, and yet, like, you know, I don't know. People, there's not really a huge amount of, there's a lot of personal responsibility, obviously, but from the people who tend to say, it's all the government's fault, and it's all shite. I don't quite buy that.
You know, they have made mistakes, obviously, more so the newer version of the government than we've had over the last few months. But at the same time, like, this COVID thing could be knocked on the head very quickly if everybody did what they were supposed to do. And that's something that really annoys me. But
a lot of people can't do what they're supposed to do is the problem. So
they need to go for a rave in a
no, but like if you work in a factory, as thousands upon thousands of people do, there's only so much you can do. Teachers within a school, there's only so much they can do. Yeah, they can wear example, the proper PPE.
On the teachers within a school, you can get a notification from the app say that you've been in close contact with somebody, and you're being told no, that's only for actually grown-ups. It's not really for you. And that's naturally enough making people a little bit concerned. My app, which you told me to download, and you said is really good, has told me that I've been in close contact and now I need to isolate. But actually, the instruction is, no, you can't isolate because you're a teacher. You need to go to work. That's look. There are complications, like,
and contradictions. Like, they're just, that's because it's like, Jesus, if you draw, I don't know, it can't be black and white because we wouldn't be able to leave the house. Like,
no, I appreciate that there are people in working environments, no more so than those in the HSE, that their little areas of risk that they put themselves in are unavoidable. I'm not talking about people in their private lives and their households. We know what we should be doing as regards our households. We know that we shouldn't have many contacts in our homes or in the homes of others on a week-to-week basis. And the level of infection would drop substantially if everybody was of the same mind in that regard. But we know they're not. We know there's certain sectors of the population that never abided by the rules from day one and certainly won't start doing it now. It's irksome, but you just have to accept that is the way it is. And we just have to be able to, you have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and know that you're doing what you should be doing.
Yeah. Right. Anything else anybody wants to get off their chest?
Well, there was something I sent to you the other day. It was a little video. I think I saw it on Twitter because Brian O'Driscoll had retweeted it, of this. I'm sure many of our listeners will have seen it. It's a game of
Brian
football.
Brian O'Driscoll, by the way, clearly not a listener to this podcast.
Why is that?
Well, if he was, he wouldn't be having a third kid.
well, hang on. 50% of the members of this podcast
exactly,
have had 3
exactly.
kids.
Would he not have listened to our recommendations?
Oh yeah, congratulations to the O'Driscolls as well and their impending arrival. But it was a video of, I think it was probably in the UK, it was a little game of soccer that was going between a few kids, and one of the children's fathers had returned home from a tour of duty with the army, and unbeknownst to the child, he was now pitch side, and he just calls over to them, and the child takes a second to calculate what is happening and realizes his dad is there, that he hasn't seen him. I don't know what the duration of time was that he hadn't seen his dad for, but then, I mean, get the tissue handy, because the tears start to fall when you see his reaction. Sprints across to the sideline, hurtles from maybe 2 meters out into his dad's arms, and then just grips him for dear life, will not let go for about a minute. And it is like, God, the cleaners never got rid of the dust in this room. We better get onto this because I'm crying here. And I urge any listener to have a look at it. And if you don't feel some semblance of emotion while watching it, you've got a heart of stone. It's incredible.
Every so often I get one of those hugs from one of the other, normally the youngest one, and there's literally nothing else on the planet that compares with it.
No, you're right. There is no better feeling than when one of your kids, now it's mainly the younger guy now, as you say, because if the 6-year-old did it, he'd probably break my back. But where they poise themselves like they're on the start line of a 1,500-meter Olympic final, arms in the air, then they go and they run the length of the house and fire themselves into your arms. And then they just grip your neck. It's just an unbelievable feeling. And it's only a feeling that dads will get. It's a very privileged position sometimes.
I should backtrack on the 3 kids thing, because actually the best thing about having a third child and it being a girl is now when I arrive home from work, the 2 lads sort of, bump off me as they're running out the door to play with their mates. Whereas the 2-year-old is like full sprint, actual joy at seeing me. It's like, thank God I'm still valued.
Somebody at last.
Yes, some acknowledgement.
If you're not watching TV, it's grand. I find that if you're watching TV, you just
barely a grunt.
Interrupting. Yeah.
This morning on the way into school was the first time that I experienced this, and I really didn't think it would happen for a little while longer. But outside the gate of the schoolyard, he stopped and said, "Do you know what? Can I give you your hug here?"
Oh!
Instead of giving you the hug inside the schoolyard. And I was like,
what age is he?
6. I was going, my God, how are we here
No,
already?
I'm marching up to the gate.
Now, on one hand, there was a little sense of disappointment and a loss of innocence and a realization that, time is moving very quickly here. But on the other, I was happy that he was still willing to give me a big hug in public before he did to school. So, swings and roundabouts.
I'm always a bit wary of those videos. They sort of put out there as propaganda by the army recruits. You go off and be a real man, and when you come back, your child will be ready.
Like Laura Whitmore.
Exactly. And then what I just did there was I Googled Army Dads Homecoming Surprise, and the first one sort of looks a little bit like a professional production. It's like the way in America the army basically pay to have the anthem and the army out there before the American football games.
Yeah.
Marketing.
All right, Gemma, let's...
And it works. On that note.
Let that be the first and last time that name... let that name not be mentioned again on this podcast.
Jim, John, take your pick.
DADCAST at offtheball.com for all of your complaints. And anyway.
Tinfoil hat at dadcast.com.
You can leave the comments. Right. To Dave, Adrian, and Nathan, thanks, folks. We'll see you again next week. Good luck.
Cheers, lads.
DADCAST, Misadventures in Parenting. Brought to you by Cadbury Freddo Treasures. Discover the new Freddo Treasure Space Series with Cadbury Dairy Milk buttons and one surprise toy in every chest.